We're looking at a Kiwi Farms thread all about YouTuber Jeremy Hambley, or as you might know him, the Quartering.
And for those unfamiliar with the territory, Kiwi Farms is, well, it's a unique place.
To put it lightly, it's not exactly known for being, shall we say, the most welcoming corner of the internet.
That's one way to put it.
But that's what makes it such a fascinating lens for today's deep dive. What can this thread, this collection of voices from a very specific online community, tell us about Jeremy Hambley, the controversies he's been caught up in, and really about Kiwi Farms itself?
Well, one thing's for sure, this thread does not hold back. It paints Hambley as this almost mythical figure of controversy. He's known for his anti-SJW content, which, for those who might not know, is basically pushing back against social justice movements and for, well, starting arguments with pretty much anyone.
It's true. He always seems to be in the middle of some kind of online feud. It's like he thrives on it. So from what you see on the thread, what's their take? What's a big takeaway when it comes to Jeremy Hambley?
They definitely see him as someone who loves conflict, someone who says he's all about free speech, but then turns around and, well, uses the same tactics he criticizes in others. They see a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of saying one thing and then doing another.
Which, let's be real, is kind of Kiwi Farms' bread and butter. Pointing out hypocrisy, finding the humor in messed up situations, that's their whole thing.
Exactly. And they really go in on that. They pick apart everything Hambley does, every word he says, every tweet he makes. It's like they're looking for proof to confirm what they already believe about him.
So it's less about what he does and more about how it reinforces this image they already have of him.
Right, exactly, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But to understand any of that, we have to rewind a bit, because this thread, it goes all the way back to his early days as a YouTuber, which, believe it or not, had nothing to do with any of this.
Yes, the early days, back when the internet was a simpler place, or so they say. So what was Hambley's claim to fame before all the drama?
Well, get this. He started out by reviewing claw machines.
Claw machines? You mean like those arcade games where you try to grab a stuffed animal with that metal claw?
The very same. He'd film himself playing, giving out tips and strategies. Totally different vibe from his content now, to say the least.
That is quite the pivot, from fluffy toys to online feuds. So how does one even go from claw machine connoisseur to, as you put it, mythical figure of controversy?
Well, this is where Magic the Gathering comes in. Hambley got into making videos about the game unboxing cards, reviewing them, commenting on the latest news, that kind of stuff. That's when he really started building an audience. And that's also when things started to get, let's just say, a little complicated.
Ah, yes, because we can't talk about Jeremy Hambley without talking about the whole #MagicGate saga. For anyone who somehow missed it, what exactly went down?
Okay, so the SparkNotes version is that back in 2017, a cosplayer, pretty well known in the Magic world, her name was Christine Sprinkle. She made this big announcement saying she was leaving the community. And she implied that it had something to do with some kind of harassment, possibly even connected to Hambley.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but even within the thread, the exact details of what went down are kind of murky.
Yeah, super murky. But regardless, it blew up, became this huge controversy, and in the end, Hambley got banned from any official Magic events.
So this whole thing becomes this huge deal. People are taking sides, accusations are flying left and right. It's the internet, so you know how that goes. And of course, Hambley has his own side of the story, right?
Oh, absolutely. He always has something to say. He was adamant that he didn't do anything wrong and that he was being unfairly targeted, silenced for just, speaking his mind. This whole idea of being a victim, of being canceled, it's a big part of how he presents himself online.
Which is interesting because looking at this Kiwi Farms thread, you see different opinions even within that community. Some seem to be almost happy about his downfall, but others are a bit more skeptical. They don't necessarily believe everything he's being accused of.
And that's what makes these threads so fascinating. It's not just a one-sided thing. It's a community, even one known for being a bit rough around the edges, trying to make sense of these really complicated topics like online harassment, cancel culture, and what even counts as truth in this digital world. It's a lot.
It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to the internet itself, isn't it? All these distorted reflections and weird angles.
That's exact.
But as much as I love a good philosophical conversation, I think it's time we get back to the drama. Because, let's be real, #MagicGate was really just the beginning for Jeremy Hambley. Things didn't exactly quiet down after that, did they?
Oh, not at all. If anything, that's when the controversies really started piling up.
Right.
And one of the most infamous, at least according to this Kiwi Farms thread, happened at Gen Con back in 2018.
Ah, yes, the infamous Gen Con assault and lawsuit. I have to admit, even just the name itself is enough to pique my interest.
It does have a certain ring to it, doesn't it? And it perfectly sums up that Kiwi Farms humor. Dark, a little bit absurd, always finding something to laugh at, even if it's kind of messed up.
So for those of us who need a little refresher, set the scene. What exactly happened at Gen Con that year?
Well, according to the thread, Hambly was at the convention, just minding his own business, when another attendee, a guy named Matt Loader, who also happened to be a cross-dresser, punched him.
Sounds like a pretty straightforward case of assault, right?
On the surface, yeah, totally. But I get the feeling there's more to it.
Oh, there's always more to it. You see, before this whole punch incident went down, Hambly had publicly called Loader a pedophile.
Oh, okay. So now it's not just a random act of violence. There's history, there's motive, there's a whole other layer of complexity to unpack.
And that's exactly what the thread does. It's like they're saying, well, if you poke the bear enough times, eventually it's going to turn around and bite. So it's not even really about the assault itself, but about highlighting this pattern of behavior that they see in Hambly. It's like, see, we told you so.
You got it. But hold on, because now we get to the lawsuit part of the story, and honestly, this is where things get really wild.
Okay, I am ready. Hit me with the details.
So Hambly claimed that this punch from Loader left him with a super serious eye injury. But here's the thing. He didn't actually go to the doctor right away. He waited a whole week.
A week. That just seems strategic.
Right. And of course, Kiwi Farms picks up on that. They're implying that maybe the injury wasn't as bad as he made it seem, and that he waited to go to the doctor to strengthen his case.
Which, by the way, we haven't even gotten to the actual lawsuit yet.
Oh, right. So Hambly decides to sue Loader, and get this. He asks for almost $500,000 in damages for one punch.
$500,000.
You heard that right. It's a lot of money. So naturally, he tries to crowdfund his legal fees, but he only manages to raise like $35,000.
Not quite enough to cover a $500,000 lawsuit.
Nope. But it gets even better. He ends up hiring Steven Crowder's lawyer.
Wait, seriously? Steven Crowder, the conservative commentator? That's almost too perfect.
Right. And of course, Kiwi Farms eats it up. It's like throwing them red meat. But the best part, the lawsuit goes absolutely nowhere. Hambly ends up settling out of court. And not only that, but he also issues this public apology to Loader and starts begging Gen Con to lift his ban from the convention.
Oh, the irony. It's beautiful. He sues someone for supposedly ruining his reputation and then has to publicly apologize and beg to get back into the same event where it all went down.
It's the kind of hypocrisy that Kiwi Farms lives for.
I have a feeling we're only scratching the surface when it comes to Jeremy Hambly's online adventures, though.
Oh, you have no idea. This thread is like a highlight reel of online feuds and controversies. And the plot thickens from there because it doesn't end with just in-person events and lawsuits. Oh, no.
Of course not. This is the internet, after all. I have a feeling that Gen Con was just the tip of the iceberg.
You could say that. So as we were talking about before the break, one thing that this Kiwi Farms thread really loves to point out is how Hambly positions himself as this warrior against cancel culture. But then you have incidents like this whole thing with zombie kills, another streamer, and it's like, well, let's just say things get a little hypocritical.
Okay, so for those of us who might not be as familiar with the ins and outs of Twitch drama, break it down for us. Who is Zombie Kills, and what went down between her and Hambly?
So Zombie Kills, she's a Twitch streamer, pretty popular, I guess. And basically, Hambly took issue with some of her behavior online. Specifically, he accused her of being really nasty to smaller creators, like harassing them, bullying them, that kind of thing.
So we're talking about online drama, but on a whole other level.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. He didn't just call her out. He went after her sponsors, too. He was trying to get them to drop her, especially Logitech.
Wait, so he's actively trying to hurt her career, her livelihood? That seems a little extreme, even for the internet.
That's what they're saying on Kiwi Farms. It's like he's using his platform, his audience, to silence her, to basically cancel her, which is pretty ironic considering how much he talks about being against that kind of thing. And it gets even messier because then he posts this screenshot of a tweet, supposedly from Zombie Kills.
Oh boy, here we go. Screenshots on the internet. What could possibly go wrong?
Right. And this tweet, it's bad. Like really bad. I don't even want to repeat it here, but let's just say it involves some pretty awful racial slurs.
Okay, so now we're talking about accusations of racism on top of everything else. This is getting heavy.
Oh, it definitely escalates. The thread is a little vague on whether this tweet was taken out of context or if it was even real to begin with, but either way, it blew up.
It's the internet. People see a screenshot, they don't necessarily wait for context or confirmation. They just hit that retweet button.
Exactly. And before you know it, this whole thing is everywhere. It even gets the attention of some pretty big names in the gaming world, like Ryan Wyatt,
Wait, Ryan Wyatt? Like the head of YouTube gaming, Ryan Wyatt?
the one and only. And from what I gathered, he was not happy about it. He apparently reported the incident to YouTube's safety team, which is a pretty big deal.
So now we have Hambly, self-proclaimed defender of free speech, facing potential consequences for, well, trying to silence someone else. The irony is thick with this one.
It's like something out of a Greek tragedy. And of course, Kiwi Farms has a field day with it. They paint Hambly as this total hypocrite, someone who dishes it out but can't take it. But what's even wilder is that, according to the thread, Zombie Kills ended up having the cops called on her.
Wait, seriously? Like a wellness check or something?
That's what it sounds like. The thread doesn't explicitly say that Hambly or his followers were the ones who called, but it's heavily implied.
So basically, he tries to cancel her, and it backfires spectacularly.
Yeah.
He ends up being the one who potentially faces serious consequences. It's poetic justice, in a way.
That's one way to put it. So how does Hambly react to all this backlash? Well, he deletes the tweets, obviously, and then he issues this really half-hearted apology to Zombie Kills, which, honestly, just makes things worse.
And knowing Hambly, I'm guessing the story doesn't end there.
Of course not. He wouldn't be Jeremy Hambly if he didn't double down, right? So what does he do? He threatens to sue some of his most vocal critics.
You have got to be kidding me. The same guy who crowdfunded a lawsuit over a punch at a convention is now threatening to sue people for criticizing him online.
You can practically hear the facepalms through the computer screen when you read the thread. They just eat it up. It's like every move he makes just confirms everything they already think about him.
It's like he's stuck in this loop, creating the very drama he claims to hate. And Kiwi Farms, they're right there with him every step of the way, documenting every twist and turn, and let's be real, probably fueling the fire a little bit too.
Oh, for sure. It's a symbiotic relationship. But this whole Zombie Kills thing, it's just one example, one little piece of the Jeremy Hambly puzzle. This thread is like a rabbit hole of drama, each one more outrageous than the last.
Oh, I am here for it.
What?
Still the tea. What other notable interactions does this thread bless us with?
Well, we have his lovely little exchange with Coach Red Pill, for one. Things got pretty heated there, lots of yelling, accusations, the usual.
What were they even arguing about?
Honestly, I don't even know if I can repeat it here. Let's just say it involved differing opinions on gender roles and leave it at that.
That's lively. What else?
Then there's the whole heel stream incident.
Heel stream.
Yeah, so it was this charity live stream raising money for St. Jude.
Okay, that's a good cause. What's the drama there?
Well, apparently, Hambly refused to participate unless they paid him $500.
He wanted to get paid to do a charity stream for St. Jude.
You're catching on. And if that wasn't bad enough, he starts going off about the people who were participating, using all sorts of slurs and just generally being awful.
I am speechless. That is a choice.
It gets worse from there, actually, because then there's this whole thing with Hambly and Keemstar.
Keemstar. Now, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Right. Talk about internet drama. Of course, the thread goes into detail about their whole feud. Apparently, it ended with this, interesting live stream. I think alcohol might have been involved.
There's a visual for our listeners. I can only imagine what went down on that stream.
It's probably for the best that we don't dwell on the specifics. But the thing is, amidst all the drama and the jokes, the thread also seems kind of obsessed with Hambly's claims about being rich and successful.
Yeah, he does love to mention his net worth, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Always dropping hints about his multiple streams of income, his expensive lifestyle. It's like he's trying to prove something.
Exactly. And the thread picks up on that. Like, they dissect his every word, every purchase he brags about, looking for any little inconsistency that proves he's not as successful as he claims to be.
It's like they almost want to see him fail. Like they're waiting for him to slip up, to be exposed as a fraud.
You're right. There is definitely an element to that. It's this weird thing you see online a lot, this resentment towards people who seem successful, especially if they're already controversial.
It's true.
Yeah.
People love to build someone up just to tear them down, especially on the internet. But, this whole deep dive into Jeremy Hambly and this Kiwi Farms thread, it's made me realize that there's more to it than just mindless drama and negativity.
What do you mean?
Well, it's easy to dismiss these online communities, but they actually reflect a lot of real-world anxieties, like the stuff they focus on, the way they pick apart Hambly's life. It says a lot about our own insecurities, our own complicated relationship with things like money and success.
You're right. I hadn't thought about it like that before. It's like they're projecting their own fears and frustrations onto this one guy, turning him into this larger than life symbol of everything they love to hate.
Exactly. It's like a twisted, funhouse mirror reflection of our own anxieties about status and success in the digital age.
Mind blown. But on that note of existential dread and internet drama,
Always a winning combination.
we should probably wrap things up for today.
But before we do, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners? Any advice for navigating these strange and often treacherous waters of the internet?
I'd say approach everything with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't believe everything you read online, even if it's presented as fact. Check your sources, consider the biases at play, and most importantly, think for yourself.
Words to live by, my friend. Well, on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the strange case of Jeremy Hambly and the even stranger world of online communities. Until next time, keep it curious, keep it critical, and as always, keep diving deep.